Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is my Cloak and Dagger Christmas TBR video. I am super excited about Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I am still just so very excited that I was asked to co-host for this event, and so I have my the books that I would like to read, although now the way that I often do these is I have way more books than I'll actually read, but it's because I like to have choice to read by mood, or if it turns out that I don't like a book, I want to have another choice available. So this is a massive TBR, but I do recognize that I won't read all of these in the month of December. So you'll just have to keep watching my videos throughout the month of December to find out which one of these I actually read in the month. So let's dive right in. For the prompt of the study, to read associated with your profession, what you studied in college, or a field you'd like to learn more about, I chose to read books that are about forensic anthropologists or are set at archaeological digs. The first book is Murder in the Queen's Arms by Aaron Elkins. This is from 1985. This is part of his Gideon Oliver series. Gideon Oliver is a anthropologist, and in this book he is in England because he is on holiday, honeymoon with his new wife Julie. Who would steal a 30,000-year-old parieto-occipital calvareal fragment? Well, that's hard to say, but someone has lifted this fragment of prehistoric skull from a musty museum in Dorchester. Then, 30 miles away, an archaeology student is murdered on a dig where suspicion, mistrust, and scholarly rivalry run deep. And I also have Suzanna Kearsley's The Shadowy Horses. This is from a recommendation from Kate Howe, so thank you very much, Kate Howe. I really enjoy Suzanna Kearsley, but I have not yet read this one. This is from 1997. With its dark legends and passionate history, the windswept shores of Scotland are an archaeologist's dream. Verity Gray is thrilled by the challenge of uncovering an ancient Roman campsite in a small village, but as soon as she arrives, she can sense danger in the air. For the library, which is to read a book that references books or to borrow a book from the library, first up is Unsolicited by Julie Kaewert. This is from her Book Lover mystery series. This was written in 1994. London's Plumtree Press has a world-class bestseller of a novel, and the sequel is earmarked to get this old family firm out of the red. But its anonymous author, known to Plumtree only as Arthur, has apparently vanished, leaving the crucial last 5 chapters undelivered. Alex already knows they revealed the identity of the characters who smuggled British children to America during World War II. But of course, this is fiction. So when a lead critic previews the book as a non-fiction expose, Alex is shocked. Even more so when the critic is murdered and Alex finds himself the target of a ruthless hunt for the manuscript and bizarre attempts on his life. That sounds really good. I also found, and I have this on my Kindle, The Book Hunters of Katpadi by Pradeep Sebastian. This is from 1974. So, Neil Amberry Adigal and her young associate Kayal together run Biblio, a one-of-a-kind store of rare books in Chennai, specializing in modern Indian first editions. The lives of these passionate bookwomen revolve around curious browsers, eccentric book collectors, private press printers, and the occasional thrill of unexpected discoveries of the antiquarian kind. On a book collecting trip to Ochi, Kayal stumbles upon an incendiary manuscript long thought to be a myth, purportedly authored by explorer and translator Sir Richard Francis Burton. Almost simultaneously, a cache of priceless editions that looks like it could be from a 300-year-old library of one of the greatest book collectors the world has ever known turns up at the bookshop. When it falls upon the two women to authenticate their finds, Neela and Kayal discover quite suddenly that their lives are more full of bibliographic intrigue than they could ever have imagined. And supposedly this is the India's first ever biblio mystery. So that sounds fantastic. Here's the cover on my Kindle. Oops. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into that. And then finally, I have Death's Autograph by Marianne Macdonald. This is from 1996. Main character Dido Hoare, a 30-something antiquarian bookseller in London. Her elderly father, Barnabas, receives a threatening note. Someone breaks into her bookstore. Her ex-husband shows up. What's happening? I don't know. I guess I will find out. For the Hall, an entry into a new-to-you subgenre, author, or series. So I have The Bone Jar by S.W. Kane. I've never read anything by this author before. Two Murders, an abandoned asylum. Will a mysterious former patient help untangle the dark truth? This one sounds really interesting. The body of an elderly woman has been found in the bowels of a derelict asylum on the banks of the Thames. As Detective Lou Kirby and his partner begin their investigation, another body is discovered in the river nearby. How are the two murders connected? Before long, the secrets of Blackwater Asylum begin to reveal themselves. Also, urban explorer Connie Dark, whose sister died in a freak accident at the asylum, is determined to help Lou expose its grisly past. And then I've got a couple by Amy Myers, but from two different series. I've never read anything from these two series. I have read, she has her Auguste Didier series, which is a Victorian chef. So this is the Wickenham Murders from 2004. And this one is interesting. It's a father-daughter team. Peter Marsh is a former policeman invalided out of the force. His daughter Georgia investigate unsolved murders from the past. In 1929, in the village of Wickenham, Kent, Davy Todd was charged with murdering Amy Proctor, middle-aged daughter of the local doctor. As Marsh and daughter begin their investigations, a skeleton is found in the woods of Wickenham Manor Hotel. Two seemingly unconnected events, yet Georgia and her father feel intuitively that there must be a link. So that sounds really interesting. And then she also has this series. This is called Dancing with Death from 2017. And the main character here is amateur sleuth Nell Drury. And she is a chef. This is set in 1925. The fashionable bright young things from London have descended on Wishbourne Court, the Kentish stately home of the Lord and Lady Ainsley, for an extravagant fancy dress ball, followed by a midnight ghost hunt. And chef Nell Drury knows she's in for a busy weekend. What she doesn't expect to encounter is sudden, violent death. Intriguing. All right, for the Billiard Room, read the next numbered book in a series or a book that has a game or sport involved. So for a book that has a game or sport involved, I want to read Wobble to Death by Peter Lovesey. This is from 1970. This is the first in his Sergeant Cribb series. They're set in the Victorian time period. And in this particular book, they are investigating a murder that takes place at basically it's a walking competition, but it is a grueling endurance test because they walk for days, essentially. So I think that totally counts as a sport. And then to read the next numbered book in a series, I have Hall of Mirrors by Christopher Fowler. This is from his Peculiar Crimes Unit series. And I'm really excited about this one because in this one, he is going back to 1969 to the younger days of Bryant and May. And they are investigating, oh yes, they accidentally sink a barge painted like the Yellow Submarine. And so they are relegated to babysitting one Monty Hatton Jones, the star prosecution witness in the trial of a disreputable developer whose prefabs are prone to collapse. The job for the demoted detectives: keep the whistleblower safe for 1 weekend. The task proves unexpectedly challenging when their unruly charge insists on attending a party at the vast estate Tavistock Hall. With falling stone griffins, secret passageways, rumors of a mythical beast, and an all-too-real dismembered corpse, the bedeviled policemen soon find themselves with a proper country house murder on their hands. I'm really excited about this one. And then I've got a couple possibilities. I wanted to find a mystery that is actually set in a billiard room, or where they're actually playing billiards as part of the plot. And my wonderful subscriber Donna recommended 2 books to me. One is The Billiard Room Mystery by Brian Flynn from 1929, and I'm reading this on Hoopla, so I'll put a picture here. An English country house. Of course, a dead body turns up in the billiard room, and even worse, Lady Constantine's pearls are missing. And then H.R.F. Keating's The Body in the Billiard Room from 1987. I've got this on Hoopla as well, so I'll put a picture here. It is the 17th, featuring Bombay's Inspector Coate. A former ambassador, Surinder Mehta, calls upon Coate to probe the death of Pichu, billiards marker at the Gentile Uti Club, gathering place for well-to-do Indians and English. And he has been found sprawled in the middle of the billiard table, stabbed in the heart. The murder weapon is missing, as are many of the club's silver trophies. All right, for the Conservatory, so this is to read a book that is about nature or travel or set in a warm climate. So I have Deadheading by Catherine Aird. This is from 2013. It's one of her Sloane and Crosby mysteries. And in this one, someone reports a break-in at his greenhouse. There is destruction of some expensive orchids, but no other damage has been done. But then, elderly Miss Enid Maud Oscathorpe goes missing. And somehow those two are connected. So it's a greenhouse mystery, orchids, totally nature, right? Right. And I have Deadly Camargue from K. Radermacher. This is from 2015. This was translated from the German by Peter Miller. So it's translated from the German, but it is set in Provence. So a warm climate there, but also some nature, because a black fighting bull has escaped from the pasture and gored a cyclist. The main characters are Captain Roger Blanc and his colleague Marius Tonin. It's a bizarre accident until it's discovered that someone left the gate open intentionally. The deceased is Albert Cohen, a political magazine reporter, fashion intellectual from Paris, and TV personality. And he was there to write a major article on Vincent van Gogh. So yeah, that sounds really interesting to me. And then the kitchen. Read a food-based mystery or a small town mystery. So I have Death in the Truffle Wood by Pierre Magnan from 1978. It was translated from the French into English by Patricia Clancy in 2005. This is another mystery set in Provence. In Banon, a small peaceful village in Upper Provence, the local community's principal source of income is the cultivation and sale of truffles. Tourists rarely venture into this remote region, but a small group of outsiders have chosen to set up home on the outskirts of the village. When one of them is found dead in the freezer of a local hotel, and when more bodies are discovered in a family vault in the cemetery, it takes all of Commissioner Violette's considerable resources to unravel crimes whose origin can be traced to age-old secrets and superstition. It's brimming, apparently, with delectable food, eccentric suspects, and the passion of Provence. And then this one hasn't arrived from the library yet, so I'm going to put a picture in here. Say It With Poison by Anne Granger from 1991. This is the first in her Mitchell and Markby series. And this is set in a small Cotswold village. Meredith Mitchell agreed to stay with her actress cousin in the run-up to her daughter's wedding, but she hardly expected it to include murder, a blackmail, and unrequited love. And then finally, Murder Has a Motive by Francis Duncan. This is from 1947. It's one of his Mordecai Tremaine series. When Mordecai Tremaine emerges from the train station in the village of Dalmering, murder is the last thing on his mind. He has never been able to resist anything in the way of a mystery, and a mystery is precisely what awaits him in the small hamlet. Rehearsals for the local amateur dramatic production are in full swing, but as Mordecai discovers too soon, the real tragedy is unfolding off stage. The star of the show has been found dead, and the spotlight falls on Mordecai, whose reputation in the field of crime solving precedes him. Moving on to The Dining Room. This is to read a closed circle mystery or a mystery with a small group of people, a mystery set in a hotel, or one that has a dinner party. So I have as options for this prompt The Clock Strikes 12 by Patricia Wentworth. This is one of her Miss Silver mysteries from 1944. The Paradigm family has gathered to celebrate New Year's Eve. Alas, when the clock strikes 12, old Mr. James Paradine, the patriarch, is found murdered. Yet he seemed to invite his demise when he accused an unnamed relative of disloyalty and demanded a confession. Into this atmosphere of suspicion and accusation comes the quietly redoubtable Miss Maud Silver to unravel the mystery of troubled love and sudden death. So that one is a closed circle, small group of suspects mystery. Also, Buried in the Country by Carola Dunn from 2016. This is set in a hotel. It's also set in the early 70s. After working all over the world for an international charity, Eleanor Trewin is retired and living in the quiet of a small town in Cornwall. But her quiet life is short-lived when, owing to her experience, the Commonwealth Relations Office requests that she assist in a secret conference that is to take place in a hotel outside the historic village of Tintagel. I'm not entirely sure how to say that. Meanwhile, her niece, Detective Sergeant Megan Pencarrow, is investigating the disappearance of a local solicitor when she is assigned to help provide security for the conference. Two African college students, refugees from Ian Smith's Rhodesia, arrive for the conference escorted by Megan's bête noire from Scotland Yard. They are followed by two mysterious and sinister Londoners whose allegiances and connections to the conference and the missing solicitor are unclear. With a raging storm having trapped everyone in the hotel, the stage is set for murder. So I love that. It's not just set in a hotel, but it sounds like it's going to be an isolated closed circle mystery because they're trapped in the hotel because of a storm. I love that. All right, and then I also have An Unwanted Guest by Sherry Lapina. This is also supposed to be an isolated closed circle mystery. Mitchell's Inn is the perfect setting for a relaxing weekend. Spacious rooms, wood-burning fireplaces, well-stocked wine cellar. So when a blizzard cuts off the electricity and all contact with the outside world, the guests settle in and try to make the best of it. Soon, though, one of the guests turns up dead. It looks like an accident, but when a second guest dies, the others start to panic. With the snowed-in paradise, something or someone is picking off the guests one by one, and there's nothing they can do but hunker down and hope they can survive the storm and one another. I have high hopes for this. I love a good isolated closed circle mystery. All right, and then I also have Guess Who by Chris McGeorge from 2018. This one sounded intriguing. At 11 years old, Morgan Shepherd solved the murder of a teacher when everyone else believed it to be a suicide. The publicity surrounding the case laid the foundation for his reputation as a modern-day Sherlock Holmes. So, he wakes up now in the future as an adult. He wakes up handcuffed to a bed in an unfamiliar hotel room. Around him, 5 strangers are slowly waking up as well. Soon, they discover a corpse in the bathtub, and Shepherd is challenged to put his deductive skills to the test. One of the people in the room is a killer. He has 3 hours to solve the murder. If he doesn't find the killer, they will all die. Isn't that fantastic? What a great premise. And then finally, Death in the Family by Tessa Weigert from 2019. This is potentially also a isolated closed circle mystery. 15 months ago, former NYPD detective Shanna Merchant barely survived being abducted by a serial killer. Now hoping to put those cases and memories behind her, she's taken a job in her fiance's sleepy hometown in the Thousand Islands region of upstate New York. But as a nor'easter bears down on her new territory, Shauna and fellow investigator Tim Wellington receive a call about a young man missing from his family's wealthy private island. So they arrive to find blood at the scene and a house full of family and friends on edge. Trapped on the island by the raging storm, she has to investigate. So yeah, that's got some potential. All right, moving on to The Lounge. This is to read a book written or set during the Golden Age. So I have some choices here for books that were written during the Golden Age and then some that are set in the Golden Age. So these ones are my choices for books written during the Golden Age. We have Murder of a Lady by Anthony Wynne from 1931. This is set in Dunkland Castle in the Scottish Highlands. Late one night, the body of Mary Granger, sister of the Laird, is found in the castle. She has been stabbed to death in her bedroom, but the room is locked from within and the windows are barred. The only tiny clue to the culprit is a silver fish's scale left on the floor. Excellent. Some Must Watch by Ethel Lena White from 1933. Helen Capel takes the position of a lady help in a remote country house owned by the Warren family. She learns that a murderer is on the loose. All 4 of his victims were young girls, and the last of these was strangled in a lonely house just 5 miles away. Helen feels safe inside the house, protected, but the maniac is closer than she fears. Death on the Cheryl by Mavis Doriel Hay. This is from 1935. It is set in a women's college in Oxford. For Miss Cordell, principal of Persephone College, there are 2 great evils to be feared: unladylike behavior among her students and bad publicity for the college. So her prim and cozy world is turned upside down when a secret society of undergraduates meets by the river on a gloomy January afternoon, only to find the drowned body of the college bursar floating in her canoe. The Secret of High Eldersham by Miles Burton from 1930. The newcomer is stabbed to death in his pub and Scotland Yard is called to the scene. It seems that the veil dividing High Eldersham from the outside world is about to be lifted. Detective Inspector Young forms a theory about the case so utterly impossible that merely entertaining the suspicion makes him doubt his own sanity. Surrounded by sinister forces beyond his understanding and feeling the need of rational assistance, he calls on a brilliant amateur and living encyclopedia, Desmond Marion. Soon, Marion falls for the charms of a young woman in the village, Mavis Overton. But does Mavis know more about the secrets of the village than she is willing to admit? And the Sussex Downs Murder by John Bude. This is from 1936. 2 brothers live together at Chalklands Farms on the Sussex Downs. One of the brothers disappears. His abandoned car is found. Superintendent Meredith is called to investigate. And then The Z Murders by J. Jefferson Farian from 1932. Richard Temperley arrives at Euston Station early on a fog-bound London morning. He takes refuge in a nearby hotel along with a disagreeable fellow passenger who has snored his way through the train journey. But within minutes, the other man has snored for the last time. He has been found dead while sleeping in the armchair. All right, and then a few choices for ones that were written in the 20s. I have A Summer in the 20s by Peter Dickinson. This is from 1981, and it is set in 1926. The British government is worried about revolution. 2 million people are about to go on strike, and class warfare is about to erupt. Tom Hankey is caught between his love for Judy, bright young thing, and Kate, a fireball agitator. Brought home from Oxford by his father, Tom volunteers to drive a train in the general strike. After his train is ambushed, Tom finds himself on the trail of a mysterious mastermind and is soon thrust into the darkest and most threatening regions of English politics. Can Tom jump the tracks, or must he follow his fate? Marjorie Eccles' After Claire from 2012. This is set in 1922. Lady Emily has returned to the country house where she spent her childhood for a family wedding. She has been living abroad, trying to get away from the memories of her sister Claire, who vanished one day after going for a walk. But the disturbing discovery of a skeleton at the base of an ancient yew tree brings the past shockingly into the present. It soon transpires that the remains belong to those of a soldier, seemingly from the time when Les Morton was used as a convalescence home during World War I. Is there a connection to her sister's disappearance? And Modern Crimes by Chris Nixon from 2016. This is set in Leeds in 1924, and the main character is WPC Lottie Armstrong. So I'm really excited to read this one. It's set during the time when women police constables were a brand new thing, and just to see kind of how she is treated and whether or not she will be allowed to investigate. I also love the acknowledgement at the beginning of this for Mrs. Florence E. Parrish, Miss Anne Carnegie Brown, and Mrs. Florence G. Strickland, who paved the way as the first women police constables in Leeds, and for all the people who had to live in the shadows until we saw the light. And finally, The Ballroom, and this is to read a mystery that has a party in it. So one that that sounds interesting, but it hasn't arrived yet from the library, so I'm going to put a picture here. Close to Home by Kara Hunter from 2018. When 8-year-old Daisy Mason vanishes from her family's Oxford home during a costume party, Detective Inspector Adam Foley knows that 9 times out of 10, the offender is someone close to home. We also have A Death of No Importance by Mariah Fredericks from 2018. This is set in New York City in 1910. Invisible until she's needed, Jane Prescott has perfected the art of serving as a lady's maid to the city's upper echelons. She works for the Benchley family, who are dismissed by the elite as new money, and who cause outrage when their daughter Charlotte becomes engaged to notorious eminent playboy Norrie Newsom. When Norrie is found murdered at a party, Jane discovers she is uniquely positioned to find the killer. That has some potential. And Poisoned Pages by Lorna Barrett from 2018. This is part of her Booktown mystery series. So this is set in New Hampshire. Trisha Miles is a mystery bookstore owner, and she is throwing a housewarming cocktail party in her new apartment. She cooks all the food herself, but one of her guests is fatally poisoned. And then, of course, I am also participating in the group read of The Birds by Daphne du Maurier. This is another book that is still on its way from the library, but I am looking forward to reading that. That's more of a short story novella size. So, what do you think? This is a huge pile of books, but I like the fact that I have choices, so if I don't like a book, there's another one that I can pick up. So, what do you think? Have you heard of any of these books? Do you have any recommendations for me of where I should start in a category? If you've read a book from that category and you want to recommend it for me as where to start, that would be awesome. I would love to hear about that in the comment section down below. And I will see you for another video soon. Bye.